There is an intelligence alliance that has been operating for over 80 years. 5 countries, 1 network, no elected leadership, no parliament, no public headquarters, and historically almost no public scrutiny. It is called Five Eyes. The agreement that created it was signed in 1946. It was kept secret for 64 years. The public didn't know it existed until 2010. Edward Snowden has been widely quoted describing it as a supranational intelligence organization that does not answer to the known laws of its own countries. That is not a claim this documentary makes independently. It is a description attributed to the person who saw the internal architecture of the alliance from the inside. No government has offered a detailed public rebuttal of that characterization, though intelligence agencies have historically declined to publicly engage with such claims regardless of their accuracy. This is the alliance that actually shapes intelligence decisions across the English-speaking world. I'm the Anglosphere Report. Begin at Bletchley Park in 1941. Before America had even entered the Second World War, Britain shared its most closely guarded secret with Washington, that it had broken the German Enigma code. America reciprocated, sharing its own success against Japan's Purple Cipher, in an exchange whose full mutual significance neither side grasped immediately. That exchange, made under the pressure of a war that could still be lost, became the foundation of the most successful intelligence partnership in modern history. In March of 1946, the United Kingdom and the United States formalized that wartime cooperation into a peacetime agreement, the UKUSA Agreement. It committed both nations to share signals intelligence, communications intercepted from adversaries and allies alike, on a continuing basis. Canada joined in 1948, Australia and New Zealand joined in 1956, extending the network across the Pacific. 5 nations, 1 intelligence sharing architecture, bound not by a single treaty most people have heard of, but by a web of intelligence sharing arrangements that, taken together, function as one of the most integrated alliances in the world. The agreement itself remained classified for 64 years. It was not until 2010 that the British and American governments jointly declassified the founding documents, confirming publicly what had been suspected, reported, and denied in fragments for decades. 64 years of secrecy, through the entire Cold War, through the fall of the Soviet Union, through the September 11th attacks, through the Iraq War, through the rise of China as a global power. The charter was finally made public in 2010, 3 years before Edward Snowden's own revelations would expose the alliance's operations to the world in far greater detail. Why these 5 countries and not others? The answer is both geographic and cultural. Analysts generally describe the division of coverage this way. The United States covers the Americas, Russia, and the Middle East. The United Kingdom covers Europe and the reach of its former empire. Australia covers Southeast Asia and the Indo-Pacific. Canada covers the Arctic and polar approaches to North America. New Zealand covers the South Pacific. Together, these 5 nations' collection zones span nearly every strategically significant region on Earth. No single one of them could achieve that coverage alone. But geography is only half the explanation. The other half is trust. All 5 nations share a common language, a common legal tradition rooted in English common law, and a set of intelligence sharing norms that took decades to build. In 1946, that combination of shared coverage and shared trust was enough to create an alliance that has now outlasted the empires, wars, and ideologies it was originally built to counter. Fast forward to 2013. Edward Snowden, a contractor for the National Security Agency, revealed 2 things about Five Eyes that were genuinely significant. Not simply that the alliance existed, but how it actually operated. The first revelation was PRISM, a program under which Five Eyes members were collecting data directly from major American technology companies, Google, Apple, Microsoft, and others. The second revelation was more consequential. Snowden's documents suggested that, in some circumstances, member states could ask each other to conduct surveillance each was itself legally restricted from conducting on its own citizens. If GCHQ, Britain's Signals Intelligence Agency, faced domestic legal limits on surveilling British citizens, it could ask the National Security Agency to do so instead. If the NSA faced similar restrictions on American citizens, it could ask GCHQ. Since Snowden, oversight mechanisms in several member countries have been strengthened. Legislative reviews, judicial oversight bodies, and public reporting requirements have all expanded in response to the 2013 revelations. But the fundamental architecture Snowden described, 5 countries sharing intelligence at a depth that allows each to route around its own domestic legal constraints, remains structurally in place. Now consider the alliance's role today in a world Five Eyes was never originally designed for. China's rise has become a central strategic concern across every Five Eyes member. Though the intensity of that concern and each government's public posture toward Beijing varies significantly from country to country. Huawei's global telecommunications expansion, TikTok's data practices, semiconductor export controls, the security of undersea cables and satellite infrastructure. Each of these has become a live Five Eyes coordination issue, evidence that an alliance built in 1946 to counter Soviet signals intelligence has proven flexible enough to redirect its entire architecture toward an adversary that did not exist in its current form when the alliance was founded. Norway sits at the edge of this story, geographically positioned to monitor Russian naval and submarine activity in the Arctic and North Atlantic. Norway has developed an intelligence relationship with Five Eyes members that is, by some assessments, nearly as deep as formal membership, without ever formally joining. Norway is, in effect, a Five Eyes partner in practice, occupying a position that raises a genuine question this documentary does not resolve. What precisely separates formal membership from the deepest tier of informal partnership when the operational cooperation looks nearly identical? And on June 22, 2026, the Alliance issued a warning that reframes its entire mission for the current era. The cybersecurity agencies of all 5 Five Eyes nations jointly stated that frontier artificial intelligence models are anticipated to exceed current industry expectations, fundamentally transforming both offensive and defensive cyber capabilities. Their own words were direct. The timeline is not years, it is months. That is not a Cold War concern. It is not even a traditional cybersecurity concern in the sense Five Eyes was built to address. It is a statement that the Alliance's core function, collecting, sharing, and acting on signals intelligence, is now operating in a domain where artificial intelligence systems can generate, disguise, and launch cyber operations at a scale and speed no human intelligence analyst could match unassisted. 80 years after Bletchley Park, the alliance that began with 2 nations sharing a wartime code-breaking secret is now coordinating its response to an era in which the most consequential signals may never be transmitted by a human being at all. Five Eyes has no parliament, no elected leadership, no public headquarters. It has never needed one, because its power was never designed to be visible. It is judged, if it is judged at all, not by what the public can see, but by what it prevents, and by how honestly its 5 governments answer for what it does when the public does see. I'm the Anglosphere Report, connecting the stories shaping the Anglosphere and the world. If an intelligence alliance this powerful can operate for 80 years with almost no public accountability, is that the price of the security it provides? Or is that itself the problem?